Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 113 with Lisa Nichols. Some of my favorite parts of this episode were when she shares the top 4 things that she attributes her success to. I also love when she shares the powerful and free exercise to rewire your brain from scarcity to abundance. Plus, I also love the keys to an abundant life that she shares with us. But there is so much more wisdom, knowledge, and inspiration that you get in the full episode. So, to listen to the full podcast and get all the info in the show notes, head to melissaambrosini.com/113 right now. Beautiful Lisa, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Can you please share it with us and tell us how you shifted your mindset from one of deep-rooted scarcity to abundance?
I was born into an amazing family that the best way I can sum it up is my family is relationship rich, culturally rich, spiritually rich, but we were financially in lack and scarcity. And I think we would even would have been called poor. We fell under the poverty line. And so I learned how to manage money from a scarcity place. I learned how to navigate through life from a place of lack and deprivation unknowingly. Again, relationship rich, spiritually rich, in terms of our family dynamics was loving and fulfilling and emotionally healthy. But my mindset was there's never enough and I have to work really hard. And as a result, I found myself struggling. You know, my bank account was in the red. NSF checks, non-sufficient fund checks were a normal part of my mail. And even to the point where I once didn't have enough money to wrap my son in Pampers. I had to wrap him in a towel for 2 days because I couldn't afford the Pampers. I often found myself eating beanies and weenies because I didn't have money to buy anything else. And so scarcity was it was my norm. I was broke and broken. And I always say, Melissa, that being broke was one thing, but being broken was a whole nother level of despair. And I didn't quite know how to get out. And when I had to wrap my son in a towel for 2 days, it was one of those moments when I just said, I don't want to experience this for the next 15 years. And if I'm going to change something, I might need to start now. It might not happen all now, but I need to start now. And I'm a true believer that your mindset will lead your lifestyle. I didn't like anything about where I was. I mean, I liked me. I could appreciate Lisa, but I didn't appreciate the lifestyle that Lisa had fallen into, had crawled into, had run into. I didn't appreciate trying to make a dime going 20 different directions. I didn't appreciate running out of money before I ran out of month. I didn't appreciate having to eat beanies and weenies as a default, not as an option. I didn't appreciate having to wrap my son in a towel because I had $11.42 in the bank at the ATM and I couldn't get $20 out to buy Pampers. I didn't appreciate that. And so my motivation, Melissa, wasn't initially, where's the best life that I can go to? Well, how can I be inspired for a better life? That wasn't my inspiration. My initial inspiration was this life sucks. This is not who I am. This is not congruent with who I know myself to be. I deserve better and I need to move my mental zip code so I can move my emotional, physical, and financial zip code out of this rut. And so I became very clear that I didn't know how. And so I picked up a book at 25. And I picked it up again at 27. I picked it up again at 30 because as I said, I'm functionally dyslexic. I'm still functionally dyslexic. And so I gave myself permission to not learn necessarily fast, but I gave myself permission, Melissa, to learn thoroughly. So I read the same book 6 times. That book was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I didn't understand everything. I'll be quite honest with you. But the things that I did understand were your circle of concern is not your circle of influence. And most people spend 80% of their time in their circle of concern and 20% of their time in their circle of influence. But if you shift it and you spend 80% of your time in your circle of influence, you will begin to transform your life. I learned that lesson like at 28, 29. And I thought, oh, okay, let me figure out what I can influence. And lo and behold, I can influence more than I thought, more than I was giving myself credit for. And then I just began to go on a hunt for what do I not know? All I wanted to know was what I didn't know, because if I learned what I didn't know, then I can learn to do some things that I wasn't doing. It was like I was this explorer for the next 5 years. And, I ate my slice of humble pie every day. And even though people would tell me how bright I was, how well spoken I was, how articulate, how gifted I was, I didn't care to be a teacher anywhere. All I wanted to be was a new, fresh student of life. And so, and then I gave myself permission to do something that not a lot of African American women or men would do. And that is, I would go to conferences where I was the only person of color. I was the only woman. I didn't care that I was the only person there. I wanted to know what they knew. I didn't want to go in environments where I was comfortable. I didn't care about environments where I'd already been. I didn't want to go in environments where I knew what they knew. I wanted to go in environments where I didn't know what they knew. I wanted to go in environments that I'd never been in before, because I was seeking to find out what I didn't know.
How can we shift from scarcity to an abundance mindset today? Like, what are some basic things that people listening can do?
The first thing to do, I believe, is to become whole and complete with yourself, to really get face to face with you. I love doing mirror work. So I recommend today, when you finish this particular interview, stop and go right to the mirror and complete these 3 sentences. So the first thing is to get in the mirror with you, because everywhere you go, there you are. You can never outrun you. You can't outtalk you. Everywhere you go, there you are. So you might as well do as much work on you as possible. So the first sentence is, and I put this in my books because it was a thing that turned my crawl into a walk. It turned my walk into a run, and it turned my run into a soar. So I'm not giving you something that I haven't tried before. As a matter of fact, I'm giving you something I've lived by. So it's the mirror exercise that I've done for over 20 years now. And the first sentence is looking at yourself. You complete the sentence that starts with the phrase, I'm proud that you. So looking at yourself, you say, I'm proud that you, and you find 7 different endings to celebrate yourself for, because we're so quick to try to fix things, but we're so slow to celebrate ourselves.
I'm curious to know, what does it mean for you to live an abundant life? What is that?
So abundance for me, it means that I have my relationships. They're fulfilling. Abundance means my finances are offering me fiscal freedom, time freedom, and location freedom. Abundance for me is where I have spiritual joy, peace of mind, that I have a higher source that I can relinquish my worries to. I have a place I can go inside me to find peace of mind. Abundance for me is the ability to nurture my health and my wellness. And so abundance is a 360 experience. It's not a singularly focused experience around money and possessions and toys and shiny objects. While a lot of people think that that's what abundance is about, that's a part of it. Abundance is saying, my relationships are in a place where I love them. I've gotten them there. I have privileged circumstances, and privileged circumstances means I've created a life where I have better choices than I had before. I have options. I have options of where I want to live. I have options of how I want this relationship to ebb and flow. I have options about my health and wellness and what I want to do with it. I'm not limited on if I can take a hike. I'm not limited on if I want to get up and dance. I have health abundance. And so abundance is a 360 experience that gives you access to circumstances and privileges that you may not otherwise have had. Abundance is around you all the time. You're always seeing examples of it. But until your mindset has been expanded to accept the fact that you are worthy of abundance, you constantly look at it as over there. So when I was little, I would see abundance, but I made it for those people over there with that color skin, from that family with that look, with that origin. It couldn't be anyone who came from South Central Los Angeles like me. It couldn't be anyone with deep mocha brown skin like me. It couldn't be anyone with kinky hair, full lips and round hips like me. It couldn't be anyone whose grandmother picked cotton when she was 10 years old. So even though abundance is around you, you're seeing evidence all the time. You have to ask yourself, am I allowing abundance to be something that I receive in my life? Is it just a want, but not a belief?
How important is taking inspired action every single day? There's, sitting back and just thinking abundantly isn't really enough, is it?
I love this question because, let's pick up where The Secret left off. The Secret said, sit on your couch and manifest a better life. But what they forgot to say is set intentions about a better life and then get really, really busy. Joan Baez quotes and says that action is the antidote for despair. Well, Lisa Nichols adds to that action is also the prescription for your success. That if action can be the antidote and action can also be the prescription, that's a very powerful verb. The difference between you and the people who are living the life that you want to live is simply how much action they're in and what they're in action doing. I'm not saying that everyone has an equal beginning because we all don't have an equal beginning. But what I can tell you is that there's one common denominator that lives between every successful person. One. They might be different nationalities, different culture, different religions, different sizes. There might be differences in every other way, but they have one common denominator. We are all in consistent, keyword, consistent action. Abundance is your birthright. I think that's the key thing that I want people to understand, that abundance is your birthright. Abundance isn't a hookup. Abundance isn't something you stumble on by luck. Abundance isn't something that someone can give you. Abundance is your birthright. And what I love about that is that there's certain things where the playing field is equal. Abundance is that. That's why we love when we hear someone who has had the hero's journey. They've come from nothing and they built. We love hearing that because it shows us all that abundance is available to everybody, not just people who were born inside of privileged circumstances, but people who were born inside a pretty dismal circumstance. They turn their lifestyle into a privileged lifestyle. If that's the case for one person, then it's not just the case for them and not for everyone else. Abundance is your birthright. The mere fact that you can hear my voice, abundance is available to you. Now, with that being said, abundance is not going to come to your door like Amazon Prime, UPS, or FedEx. Abundance is something you have to decide to go get. And it's not something that's on the outside of your door or on your front lawn or at the corner or at the mailbox the very first time you go.
What do you attribute your success to?
A few things. One, I attribute it to my commitment to be a servant leader. And what I mean by that is I want to bring value to people's life. And because I want to bring value to their life, and that's what I do. I set my intention to bring value to people's life, to really be of value to them, to answer the question that they've been looking to answer, to help them access that extra dose of courage. So my servant leadership has afforded people to find me to be the solution for some of their needs. So I always say my service has led to my sales. My company has grown double digits every year for the last 15 years as a direct result of my commitment to service. Another reason why I've been successful is because to the degree that I am a good teacher, I am a phenomenal student at the very same time. So I have the ability and have honed the ability to be a teacher and a student in the exact same minute.
Can you tell us how you lost 90 pounds?
Yes. So it's not the traditional way. Most people think that I just did the Jillian Michaels Biggest Loser workout every day. And to be quite honest with you, this is probably only the second or third interview that I have shared this in because it was very hard for me for a long time. So while I was building my career, those 14 years that I was growing double digits in business, publicly, what was happening privately which is I was in a private health hell. So inside of 6 years, I had 3 blood transfusions in 6 years. I was diagnosed with the most severe case of sleep apnea that the sleep study program had ever seen. The average person with sleep apnea, severe sleep apnea, wakes up 31 times an hour. I would wake up 62 times an hour. And I traveled all the time. So I was diagnosed with literally being one of the highest risks of heart attack. I was 215 pounds. My blood count was really low. I wasn't getting any sleep because I had sleep apnea. I was constantly having blood transfusions. I would get off stage from speaking, sign autographs, get in the car and be driven to urgent care and have a blood transfusion. I was told by the doctors that it wasn't a matter of if I would have a heart attack. It was a matter of when I would have a heart attack and where would I be. And so for the first time, a holistic doctor said, you have to have a jump start on your weight loss. It wasn't attached to food. My hormones were just completely out of whack, and they weren't working with me. And my weight, no matter what I did, I gained weight. I've always been a healthy eater. I had medical assistance, and I had a medical surgery, a weight loss surgery, to get the first 50 pounds down. And then that gave me enough sleep so that I had energy to go to the gym. And by going to the gym, I was able to lose the other 40 pounds. And so it took a lot of, I struggled with that because I was an athlete for 13 years. I was a state champion for 5 years, and my ego was in the way. And I was told that my ego was going to put me in an early grave. And it still took 2 years after I was told that by a doctor. Still 2 years later, I still waited. And finally, I realized if I am irresponsible after being recommended all of these things because my ego says it wants to do it only one way, and I literally didn't have the energy to go to the gym because I wasn't getting any sleep. I wasn't getting any sleep because I had sleep apnea. I couldn't get rid of the sleep apnea because I had too much weight. It was a cyclical cycle. And so once I started getting sleep, I had energy to go to the gym. Once I had energy to go to the gym, my metabolism kicked in. And so it's taken a long time for me to be able, Melissa, to talk about that out loud because after the surgery, I had so much shame around it. I felt like I did something wrong. And then I realized that everyone doesn't have the same path to the outcome that they're looking for. That as my skin is mocha, and yours is cream, as my hair is curly and yours is straight, as my lips are full and yours may be thinner. That does not mean that we both can't get to bliss and joy. We have a different come from space. I finally had to give myself permission to need to do what I needed to do to create a healthy lifestyle for me. I'm living a life I've never seen in the last 20 years because I swallowed my pride and my ego, and I asked for medical help.